Disclaimer. Everything I say in this video is 100% my opinion. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is solely to educate, explain, and inform people on why I've come to believe what I currently believe. This is not endorsing or promoting anyone to act any way or do anything. All my opinions and thoughts are subject to change over time if I find more compelling arguments or theories.
Anybody can make anything they want. There's no more limitation. I think we're going to see a gradual shift. I think coders are going to adopt it at first and be like, I got a secret in and I can build things fast. But we're going to start seeing, businesses that go, wow, I can just build my own application to take care of this feature in my business, and I don't have to hire a whole team to do it, and I can get it done in an hour and a half. And then we're going to see it come on down to moms, dads, grandmas, and we're going to see them start to adopt it and say, I can make anything I want to work the way I want. This is awesome. And the magic, we know this, the magic of ICP is if you take that link and you just apply it to your phone, you don't have to submit the app to Google App Store. It's just an app natively on your phone anyway. So get out there and build, people. Like, the world is wide open now.
So, as you see in that video, you have that person explaining how kind of the vision for CaffeineAI, and I believe in internet computer guys. I trust in DFINITY to make a great product, and considering the alpha of CaffeineAI has been doing so well, and it shocked a lot of people. I was also in the environment, right? I was in the ecosystem, and you saw everywhere people doubting CaffeineAI, rushing the launch, right? People were saying things like, you have to launch this now or else you're going to run out of time. You're running out of time. Launch this now, right? So now that it was launched in alpha July 16th, 2025, everybody's impressed with it as far as I can see, except for the people that have 100% hate on ICP since day one, right? And people that are butthurt with ICP. But if there's no bias, this is extremely impressive. And there's core differences, and I have a bullet point list, but I can go through all of that for like the technical things, because this video might be more tailored toward the technical space, but I'm not a technical guy, really. I'm really not, and I think since I'm not, I can kind of explain it better in a very layman term, but maybe not, right? We'll have to see. But first I want to go into what makes so this is Internet Computer Protocol, right? I should have put the word here, because if people don't know this logo, but this is the Internet Computer Protocol logo, which was founded by DFINITY. DFINITY is the main contributor to the Internet Computer Protocol, and you can think of it as a decentralized cloud compute platform. In short term, you can just call it a crypto cloud, right? Because it's cryptographically secure. Unlike AWS, unlike Google Cloud, unlike Microsoft Azure or Alibaba or any of the main cloud providers, right? Because the architecture is built differently as an entity, right? As an entity. It's not like a technology they added on top of a service. This is the service inherently. It's native to it, right? This is the point of the protocol. So this is obviously a cryptocurrency, right? And I have my own schizo theories about why this was a crypto, but obviously I think it just makes sense in terms of tokenomics, because like I said in previous videos, I think this is going to be a part of the tokenization economy coming up, which are what all the laws are being signed for now, right? Including ISO 222. I think the framework is building for this new economy, right? Kind of an upgrade to the current economy and the current software systems. But anyways, so I wouldn't even compare. I don't think ICP is competing with any of these people. I genuinely don't. The most they're competing is for market share, maybe. Now that might sound like, well, obviously everybody's competing for that, right? But here's what I mean. I think ICP's technology is so ahead that it doesn't matter who does better in the markets right now because the use cases for this are undeniable at scale, right? And it's trying to do something that no other crypto is trying to do. No other blockchain, no other project, no other network, right? And it has real use cases that solve human issues. Um, and it's easy to understand too, right? This isn't complicated. Even though I said this might be more of a technical video, um, it's not complicated to understand, right? And I'm going to go into that later. But for example, Bitcoin wants to be a currency, right? Caspa wants to be a currency. It practically calls itself the better Bitcoin. You have Solana, which is all about speed, right? They use smart contracts as well. It's basically like a upgraded version of Ethereum. That's what they claim. You have Ethereum here, but all of this is based on blockchain type technology, right? Immutable ledgers, decentralization, stuff like that, right? No central point of failure for the people, right? That's what all of these are for. And Tau, BitTensor Tau, this is a really like an AI, an artificial intelligence type of crypto, right? So these aren't all exactly trying to be currencies, but what's one thing that makes ICP different from literally every single crypto you name? They're the only ones out of the hundreds of thousands of projects out there. They are literally the only one that can actually host fully front end and back end full stack compute on their chain. Now, this doesn't mean it's scaled indefinitely yet, right? We're still technically in inception. This was just launched in 2021. So, but I see this as time's going on, guys, the replacement for a lot of the internet's problems today. And I wish I had a better analogy. Kind of think kind of like HTTP and HTTPS, right? So those are networking protocols for people that don't know. And HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And HTTPS is Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. And there's also Telnet, right? So Telnet is like a way to send commands over the command line, right, for a system. But then you have Secure Shell. And Secure Shell is practically just a way better version of Telnet. They do the same things, but one is more secure. So that's how I see ICP, the new internet, compared to the old internet. Like the old internet may still exist. I can't predict the future, but that's just kind of an analogy I thought of, right? Like it's just like HTTP is still used, right? Or HTTP is still used, but there's also HTTPS for the more secure when you need more security. So if ICP doesn't really take over the entire internet with AI scaling, right? And there's still an older kind of internet, right? Because this is going to be, in my opinion, its own detached, like blockchains by design are detached, right? But ICP is unique that their smart contract software doesn't need any oracles, meaning you don't need any third parties to actually get information from the web. But to make a little bit of a worse analogy, it's not going to be as good as the HTTP, HTTPS one or the Telnet and Secure Shell one, but I kind of see it like TCP and UDP, right, which are also internet protocols, and it's part of IP, right? So UDPs for less, you can just kind of throw anything and see what sticks, where TCP, you actually want to make sure there's an acknowledged connection, right? And like I said, this isn't the best analogy, but I see that in a way where the old web is like UDP, and for when you want real security, no hacks, tamper-proof data, full reliability, right? No shutdowns, no centralized point of failure, you choose ICP. So that's what I think this is really happening, um, as I see it right now, right? So I don't think ICP is competing with any of these. I think all of these people can benefit from building their front ends on ICP, right? You can be fully decentralized. You don't rely on any centralized cloud providers, any trustless bridges, right? You can rely on ICP, and I think that's just going to scale out more and more as Dfinity keeps creating great products, right? They already have an amazing chain key technology, um, which gives much more benefits compared to something like traditional bridges, right? And that's part of ICP's architecture as a whole, as an entity, right? It's not something that they're using from a third party, which makes them so different. They're pretty much like they're not a Swiss Army knife, right? People would think, oh, well, maybe you have a little bit of everything, like a jack of all trades, but it's all kind of shitty. ICP isn't a Swiss Army knife, it's a toolbox, right? It's a toolbox, and it has everything you need. And let's say you don't want to use ICP, you can build Caspa's front end on ICP if they don't want to use any of their current front ends, right, that they have on the traditional web. Why wouldn't you do that? You could argue, right? I don't know the pinpoint details. Maybe it's cheaper to do it on traditional web right now, but in the future, you can easily just make your own kind of DApp on ICP that makes this fully decentralized, right? There's literally, instead of trusting anything on traditional web, you trust on ICP, which is its own protocol, right? And I'll put the links for what you can read on how their canisters work, so you can actually trust this blockchain, right? And I like educating people, but I'm not gonna like literally read to you what you can do yourself, right? Like I'm not gonna read to you how canisters work when there's a literal article by Dfinity themselves, right? Like you can do that on your own time, but I can just give you kind of like the summary of why it adds benefit. So then here, this is kind of who I see competing with each other, right? Because everything these people have in common is that they rely on third parties, and these really just come down to the settlement layer, right? So to really access the majority of these coins, unless you're extremely technically savvy, right? If you're the average person buying Bitcoin, you're not directly going on the blockchain. Chances are you're using Coinbase, right? Now, people can use Coinbase to buy ICP and all these things. That's not what makes it different, right? But if you wanted to fully just interact with ICP within itself, it's extremely easy to do so because they host their own UI, they host their own websites, and they don't rely on any cloud providers for any of their hosting. Like you get full ICP every time, especially through their governance system, right? Everything's on chain, everything's safe. And these don't offer that because their blockchains were not made to handle computation like that. If you want to do that, they would need a hard fork. They'd be a complete different network, and there'd be a lot of drawbacks. ICP built for this from since day one. This was always the plan. So I would argue that ICP isn't competing with any of this. They're really competing with this, right? Because there's not a other crypto that's a cloud. There's no other crypto out there that's a cloud, right? Unless I don't know about it. The closest thing you may have is Arweave or OW, right? But they don't handle computation, and they're really not a traditional blockchain. There's no consensus layer, I'm pretty sure. Or it's like a separate, there's two separate networks to make each other work, right? So I see OW or Arweave, I see Arweave as like permanent storage, which is a benefit, right? That's a benefit, right? ICP can work with OW, and I'm pretty sure there's already a project trying to do that called the Library of Alexandria. I think that's what it's called. Alex. I'm pretty sure I bought some, but I haven't checked up on it lately. But I'm pretty sure they're using OW or Arweave as where to store their data permanently, and that's good, right? I think we're gonna live in a multi-chain society, so that doesn't sound like a problem to me. That's actually how ICP should. That's what ICP offers. So, I would argue, right? Like ICP can do everything these people can do. Maybe not at scale, right? Like maybe Caspa can actually settle faster than ICP, but ICP can settle fast. It may not be as fast as Caspa or Solana, right? It may not be, because there's some sites that say ICP is extremely fast. Then there's other sites that say it's maybe like third place, right? And these are like I've seen some put it in first place, right? So I'm just trying to be as unbiased as possible here and just say that like TPS transactions per second isn't all of the that's not the whole story, right? Something can be extremely fast, like Solana, for example, but the network's been down 8 times, I'm pretty sure. So, you know, you just gotta really, you gotta do your own research if you're really interested on each of these individual protocols, right? You have Bitcoin, XLM Stellar, XRP, Near Protocol, BitTensor Tau, Caspa, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, right? You can look up any of those and just do 10 minutes of research. You can get a decent idea on, what the benefits and drawbacks are of each. But regardless, I compare ICP more like a competitor to AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure, and not even really a competitor, right? I think there's a video that I'm gonna link by a content creator within ICP known as Bobby O, right? And he has an amazing video on his theory on why he sees Google Cloud or cloud providers in general using ICP, building on ICP. But I'll link that video in the description or in the comments, right? But anyways, so I looked up the cloud market share for the main cloud providers in the world, right? So you have AWS with 32%, Microsoft Azure with 23%, Google Cloud with 10%, Alibaba with 6%, Oracle and IBM. But I don't really consider these two because this is mainly for like main enterprises, right? Which, isn't, I'm not going to say they're not included because they are important. They're extremely important, right? But this isn't most of the world. This is like for the things that run the world, right? This isn't for your average consumer. So, but either way, all of these combined is like 70%, guys. And then the rest of the 30% are things like Salesforce and, like smaller cloud providers under 1% of the share, right? So the thing that's crazy about this is that none of this, all of this 100%, right? When this adds up to 100%, not a single one is cryptographically secure and offers fully on-chain data storage like ICP. And with that, you have all the benefits of security, tamper-proof data, right? Immune to cyber attack, no centralized point of failure. It's extremely hard to take sites down or have any shutdown compared to these, right? With all the exploits. Look at CrowdStrike again. Just think about CrowdStrike, right? So, and you have full auditability on ICP, right? That's part of the blockchain. You can actually review every piece of code, every transaction. It's stored cryptographically. There's no single person, single government, single company. Even Definity themselves, I think they have 20 to 25% of a vote, right? So even the main contributor themselves, and that's obviously a very large percentage. We're gonna have to see if it goes down over time, right? Which I think it will as there's more adoption. But either way, right? You still need that other 25, 26. You need to get over that percentage, right? 25% is only like 1/4. So, and that's in 2025, right? And it's been lower before. It's been as low as like 20% before, 21%. I don't know if it's been lower than that before. It may have went under the 20s, but the point I'm trying to make here is that with any of this, guys, with AWS, you could easily just get any top, any very important, like maybe the chairman, right? If he just decides, literally, he can just be an asshole if he wants to and shut down your site. That doesn't happen with ICP unless it's voted for by the entire protocol, the network nervous system. And that's that's one of the main use cases of the coin ICP, right? It's voting for the governance system, and it also burns into computational power, which is known as cycles, right? To power applications. So this is an amazing economy in itself, right? And it just, considering you can put many other protocols on it, which is in my, not just my opinion, but I see that as the vision for a multi-chain society. Um, with my previous videos about how ICP is directly in front of that entire tech hub in Zurich, the future is bright for ICP, guys, and they just have to get like, I'm pretty sure cloud, the revenue it generates in 2025 is like around 500 billion, and that's in 2025. This is before AI is even scaled out. And that's another thing, right? AI on traditional cloud and traditional web with all the data it gets, hallucinations are rampant, right? There's so many errors. I mean, I think there was a, and I am going to still talk about caffeine, by the way, right? This is kind of getting into that. Like this guy had a tweet and he was talking about how he was vibe coding with Replit, and Replit destroyed all his data, right? It removed all of it. That's impossible with CaffeineAI because it saves the drafts. But I'm going to get into enhanced orthogonal persistence later, which is solely on ICP only because of Motoko programming language. But like I was saying, right? All of this combined is probably $500 billion a year. So as of right now today, ICP can have an easy market share of this because they just come in and say, well, you guys have all the scalability, right? But if there's important financial data or lawyer, right, data that have specific information on clients that would be devastating if it got leaked, well, guess what? We're like the HTTPS version of what you guys are. You guys are HTTP, we're HTTPS. If you really want something secure and tamper proof and you actually own your own data, imagine if you're like a, well, I'll make this analogy, or I'll make this hypothetical scenario when I'm talking about how caffeine's different. So, yeah, that's my point though. If they just come in and say we have more security and you actually own your data if they just take 5 to 10% of the industry in 2025, guys, right? They get that market share. That's over $50 billion market cap, right? Like the revenue that ICP gets from taking 10% of this overall estimate, right? Because and it's going to be easier for them to take a lot because they're the only ones in all of crypto in the entire world that can actually take any of this. So that's extremely bullish to me. So this is how CaffeineAI is different from Replit, Lovable, Versal. Now Versal and Replit and Lovable aren't all exactly the same, but I just kind of wanted to give people an idea of what caffeine does differently, right? And I probably won't go through all these points, but you can read it, right? I just kind of want to go over the main things just to make this kind of quicker. But you can just pause and read it, right? Because this is what I could think of. So, CaffeineAI. This was the analogy I was making with secure data, right? CaffeineAI deploys on a completely different architecture. When you're done making the app, it deploys on Internet Computer Protocol. Now imagine if you're a lawyer or you're a low-level lawyer, right? Like a smaller lawyer, and you have like your kind of own little small firm. Instead of hiring a tech team, you decide to use Lovable. You want an AI tool base, right? And you just make your nice website, and you store like certain things on it, right? Now, let's say you have what's more seamless to worry about, right? With Lovable, if you're a lawyer, you probably won't ever store any personal human data on that website, right? I think you'd be insane. You'd most likely have your own database, right? But depending on how it works, you're limited, right? There's potential that's limited because if you do store, that's the main point I'm trying to make here. If you wanted to store any personal information on the site itself to make it more UI friendly for people, like let's say a client wants to sign up and type about their case, right? Imagine if that can be hacked because you rely on third-party hosts. And it might not even be your fault, right? AWS can get hacked. You might have an API leak or something, right? It could be anything. And you're at risk for this when you build with Lovable and you deploy it on the current web iteration, right? And it may not even be Lovable. It might not even be Lovable's fault. Lovable's fault, right? Like the AI may have created all the code correctly, but if someone gets in that from any exploit they can, you're in for a huge lawsuit, right? That person's personal information was just leaked, and that was through your site. That was from the information you kept. So with caffeine, that lawyer, and this is the best part about caffeine, it scales for everybody. CaffeineAI scales for everybody. Just like the video I showed you, the sir was talking about how it's going to start off with the coders, right? Like, oh wow, this is cool. And then it goes to corporations. And then it goes as small to as, your mom and dad. Because they literally just have to talk to it. They can, this is gonna, I think this is literally the iPhone moment, guys. But not in the same way where it changes like before you didn't have smartphones as much, right? Before the iPhone, that really changed the game now that everybody's carrying it around. But I think this is going to change the game in the same way where people use blockchain without even really knowing they're using it, right? Because they want to use caffeine. They don't care about the blockchain part. If it's so easy to just build an app and fund it, and all you got to do is buy, and I'm pretty sure someone said you can buy ICP with USD now through Stripe integration that they had on one of their apps. Now I haven't verified that, okay? So I'm not actually gonna say that as fact, but if that is true and this is an alpha, I think this is going to be the thing that really brings millions, billions people online over time, over the years. And I think it will be quick, right? Not because they even realize they're using it, but because they just see it as a random product, kind of like Chat GPT, right? It's like kind of like when you sign on to YouTube. When you're using YouTube, you don't realize all the companies you're using in the background, but they're still getting a share. They're still getting revenue for being used, right? But to go back with the bullet points, right? No reliance. Caffeine AI has no reliance on AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. There's no centralized cloud provider. I've already made that clear. And I just have OpenChat here. This is a messenger app that's on the ICP blockchain, and it's never had a shutdown or a hack once. And it's been live for, I think, 2.5 years now, maybe even 3, right? So there you have it. This is like a decentralized Discord, I would say. So give it a shot. Give it a try if you guys haven't ever used OpenChat. It's easy to make an internet identity, which is the authentication protocol that ICP uses. With Caffeine AI, you don't have to have experience coding. It's kind of the same with Lovable, right? Um, with Caffeine AI, you can speak and type until you get what you want without fear of losing data, right? So this is the real big game changer compared to Replit and Lovable, guys. Internet Computer Protocol uses a programming language known as Motoko, and you can train Motoko styled like AI on it, right? You can get an LLM to learn Motoko, and Dominic Williams actually said Motoko itself, even though programmers can code in Motoko, Dominic Williams said himself that Motoko is more like a language that's easy for AI to understand. And I think this was all by design, guys, right? Like some people argue that Internet Computer and Dfinity, they just jumped on the AI bandwagon, but Motoko was tailored. It was made to be for AI, a programming language for AI. And Motoko was helped develop by Andreas Rosberg, I'm pretty sure, who's a very well-known programmer. He helped create WASM. So I'll probably put up like a little, slide about who he is. I might edit this video. But Motoko offers enhanced orthogonal persistence. This is unique to ICP, enhanced orthogonal persistence. So what this allows is that you can this practically ties like all the data and app logic together in one. You don't have to worry about one or the other, right? This is all tied in together, and you can make draft after draft after draft after draft, and you don't have to worry about the AI removing any important data at all. And it actually saves the prior drafts if you want to work on those drafts instead. And you just say what you want to change, update it in real time, right? There's no downtime. You just update and redeploy. It's tamper proof. It's on chain, right? Everything's on chain, especially when it gets deployed. Like you see the app itself creating um, when you're coding with caffeine, right? And you'll see multiple slides of the draft. And this is an alpha, by the way. So there will be bugs. I think there's been some bugs and drawbacks right now. But like I said, it's just officially launched not even 2 full weeks ago. So when the apps are deployed on ICP, you get full tamper proof and it's fully on chain, right? And like I said, with just the lawyer analogy or hypothetical scenario I was making, that's a huge deal. But just imagine if you just want to make a thing for your family, right? Like a family app or something, right? Like a picnic app. And instead of like hosting that, now do those kind of things ever get hacked? No, right? But the point I'm making is that you actually know you own your own data and no one's going to see that, right? It's fully secured to you. Whereas you post something like that on the internet, maybe if you have someone that doesn't like you in life or someone that hears about it, they see it, right? They're able to manipulate it a certain way, flood the applications. Right now, no one would really make an app for that in the first place, but that's what I'm arguing right now. With Caffeine AI, you can make an app for that because it's so easy to. It's so easy to. Instead of making like a wedding planner, you know, getting someone to customize it in an office, you just talk to Caffeine AI. It's secure. You have full audibility of everybody in the wedding, right? So I think this is just it's going to be something that the same way that everybody started using a phone. Think about before the iPhone, right? Like who was really using technology that much? Like the most technology you had was the internet and then the television, right? But who was really bringing something everywhere with them, like the iPhone? So it changed the game. And with caffeine, it's like, oh, you really don't even need to know how to code or prompt or anything, because even if you suck at prompting and you don't get what you want, you can just keep talking to it until it adds specifically what you want. And you don't got to worry about any of the drawbacks like losing your data. You don't got to worry about screwing it up, right? So, yeah, that's just what I see as like the main benefits of caffeine right now in alpha. And I think this is only going to have more and more of a clear difference as time goes on. So, this was just another real quick comparison I made. Um, so caffeine compared to Lovable, right? I still think Lovable is a strong product. Okay, I don't think it's a piece of shit, right? I'm just showing the main differences, the main benefits of caffeine AI, and I kind of think of it like this, right? And this isn't the best analogy because I'm not trying to say that caffeine AI is restricted, right? Because obviously the iPhone. So the whole reason I put these pictures here is kind of like this, right? For the iPhone, you have the OS, right? You have Mac OS, but for the iPhone, you have iOS, right? So you have these operating systems that are very tailored towards consumers, right? It's for the like the iPhone compared to the Android, right? An Android you can customize way more if you want to. Now, you don't have to be technically savvy to use this, but let's say you want to customize it a lot, like if you're someone that wants to install certain things, get more technical, an Android allows that. Now, the iPhone, even though it doesn't allow that as easy, it's much harder to hack. It's way more secure. People restrict it, or the developers, right? The Apple itself restricts a lot of it and puts it in the back end. And that's how I seen Caffeine AI compared to this. Because even though this does put a lot of it abstracted, you still have to, like I say here, you have to worry about state app logic not messing up. You still have to worry about multiple points of failure, right? So this is like in comparison when you're installing something on Android, you know, you kind of have more responsibility on yourself. Um, and longer term apps on these need actual manual developer work. You kind of need to know what you're doing. Whereas so far with Caffeine AI, um, you can just keep talking and explaining what you want until you get the draft right. Now that might I can see why people may argue that's not ideal, right? Because what if you keep messing up prompts? So that could be an honest drawback, right? Like I'm not going to be 100% biased right now. Even though I think the ends justify the means, there's no way to manually code anything you want to change, right? So maybe, but I think as time goes on, right? Right now it's an alpha. I think as time goes on, there will be a way to edit that, right? But right now it's only July, it's July 28th. 2025. So this literally just came out within 2 weeks ago. Now I put Windows here because even though Linux, right? So let's say with Lovable, Replit, right? Even though it's more for in-depth coding, right? People can really manually edit it. And this, I'm just saying this right now, right? This might not even be a benefit as time goes on because I'm assuming Caffeine AI will allow manual editing of code, but I can't say that for sure because it's not true yet, right? So I'm not going to say it like it's a fact, but even though you can edit Linux and it's open source and it's much more, there's much more customization. The market, the market, a wide share of the world, Windows is the most popular operating system by far, right? And it's because they made it custom tailored for the consumer, for the average Joe. So that's what I see kind of Caffeine AI as. I don't see these as average Joe, right? This isn't as easy to use as ChatGPT. You got to worry about backend. You got to worry about who your cloud provider is going to be. You got to worry about if your thing gets hacked. You got to worry about updating the data manually, right? You have third-party authentication methods. The data isn't immutable. It's not on a blockchain. You don't really own the data. The cloud provider can probably see and allow if you're even being hosted, right? Where a Caffeine AI, they say screw all of that. We're removing all of that for you. All you got to do is pick up a phone, talk to it, and there's your site. So I think that's a real big difference, and that's why I think this is going to be a game changer. So that's just the way I see it right now. Right now, I can't predict the future. We're gonna have to see how that goes over time. But I don't know, guys. Dominic Williams said, he had a chart. He wants billions of people to be adopted on this over time, and I think you're gonna see that, right? Rome wasn't built in a day, and I follow the trends. I see this as a trend. So that's all.